I appreciate you sharing this. I have seen this kind of thing. Well, I saw it last year. I'm seeing it this year as well. And so the big question is, what can a parent do about it? And then the second thing is, how is this a violation? And well, let's start with this, okay? And dear parents, writing to give you a heads up that Lane ESD Life Skills Classroom will be temporarily shifting to a hybrid schedule starting September 14th. Reason for this change is that staffing levels are currently inadequate to accommodate all students in person. The hybrid schedule will be implemented temporarily until staffing levels are adequate to accommodate full classroom 5 days per week. Students will attend in person on a rotating schedule, blah, blah, blah. Administration will be coordinating with transportation departments. I regret the need to implement this change on short notice and appreciate your understanding. And this is from the Director of Special Education. All right. Now, the big glaring question to me is this hybrid schedule only impacting self-contained environments, or is the entire school on a hybrid schedule? Now, the bigger question is the entire school district on a hybrid schedule? Or is this a situation to where it's not a school system issue, it's not an individual school location issue, but it is inside of a special education classroom? This is where the staffing shortage is. So because this is a staffing shortage here, now we have changed the schedule, which then alters the IEPs, guys. I mean, it does. If the IEP was developed that your child requires in-person services 5 days a week, and that's what's designated in there, and then all of a sudden, well, we got this hybrid schedule now, and I'm sure some schools will sit there and say, well, we can create these, distant learning plans and, intertwine all this stuff. Okay, but does that mean and equate to a provision of a free, appropriate public education? See, that's the big question here. First of all, it's an equal access question. First of all, it's discrimination to sit there and say, well, we're going to reduce access to school for you because of these reasons, like our problem in maintaining staff. Well, you don't have the problem with other kids, do you? Your general ed kids are fine, right? They all have teachers, and I'm sure that some of them have instructional aides that are going into those classes. So because of an arbitrary issue, or it could be a very real issue, we just can't find the staffing, that is not your child's problem. That's their problem. And the fact that she put it on paper is sort of baffling to me, because that's evidence right there. See, it's sort of, clear evidence that the problem isn't your child. The problem isn't some issue other than they have a staffing problem. And because of their staffing problem, it has now disrupted your child's ability and access to the school, to their education, which quite frankly could also be a violation of state law if you have compulsory education requirements to where they're required to educate your child X number of days. Now, I'm sure that they're getting away with it, going, well, we're still providing services in, this. But is that an appropriate means of delivery and instruction for your child? If your child's not a virtual learner, then I'm sorry, they can sit there and go, well, we're going to be able to provide access. You can provide access all day long, but if it's not an effective means of delivery, then it's still, in my viewpoint, a denial of access, equal access, because other children are able to attend. They're not prohibited from attending because they have teachers. Your child, vulnerable population, your child doesn't have a teacher or support staff for your teacher. So therefore, they have you on a rotating, which then could also end up impacting you financially if you are in a dual income family or a single parent income. I mean, there are so many facets to this. And I'm telling you, we very well could be seeing that big time over the winter and into the spring, guys. I don't want to be a alarmist, but I just see the signs that this winter and this spring is going to be highly disruptive in the form of in various forms. I'll just leave it at that. And so we have to be prepared as parents for all of the different alternatives and requirements. Have different plans set up to where you can sit there and make these adjustments, sort of like we had to do last year, and especially in between March and May of 2020, when all the schools were shut down. Just prepared for those kind of contingencies, okay? But with your situation, with this particular situation, the admission is we have a staffing issue. It's not your child. That's their problem. So what do you do about it? Well, you can't fix their problem. They've got to fix their problem. What does that do for you? Well, it puts you in a position to where you can file due process. You can request mediation. You can make demands that that your child requires in-person services. And your child is not a hybrid or a virtual learner on those other days. And so what I've had to do in some of my cases is I've had to structure this to where a couple days, if they're able to go on campus, that's fine. But then on those other days when they're virtual, the school system needs to pay for them to attend a location where they can get in-person services. If that's with a third-party provider, if that's with a private tutor, if that's with a retired teacher, I don't really care. All right? There's nothing out there governmentally that is preventing you from providing. It's just this is all artificial. Very real, but still an artificial thing that's impacting the child. And so if you can't fix your staffing issue, then you need to pay for these services because this is what FAPE is for this child. If parents sort of start pressing in those areas, it'll be amazing how quickly they can sit there and fill these positions. Maybe they need to offer more money. Maybe the government needs to stop creating these artificial staffing issues by disincentivizing people to work. This nonsense, it can't go on forever, guys. It's just so wrong in what we're doing. It's creating these trickle effects, and we're feeling it. But I can't tell you, and I know people get so frustrated at me because they don't want to hear, James Galini's take on this COVID nonsense. But guys, this is an example of what this nonsense does to our most vulnerable populations. This, okay? I know some of you think this is so cute. Oh, we need to do this. No, we don't need to do this. Because it impacts our vulnerable populations first. General ed kids are fine, guys. The decisions of government are impacting vulnerable populations first and foremost. They start getting into a real nasty situation where they're having to triage services. It's also going to impact the most vulnerable of our children, because they're going to be at the last of the list, guys. Every triage situation, every state, I know it sounds so mean and heartless. We sort of had that exposed last year, and a lot of people weren't paying attention. But they will triage, and special populations, disability is going to be sacrificed if there is truly, truly an emergency with regards to resources. So this is where I'm sitting there going, these people that some of you out there that are watching this video now, that are just so on this COVID train and mandates and forcing people and these allowances with disincentivizing people from working. under these guise of safeties and separation and all. You are part of the problem that are impacting this family's child. The solution is to absolutely return to normal. That's the solution. All right. You have rights. I would keep this letter. You have a 2-year statute of limitations, except in North Carolina, there's 1 year statute of limitation. Texas even went to 2 years. But you have a 2-year statute of limitations to be able to go back and recover for this lost time. All right. But I would press for solutions now. I would really press for solutions now. And if they sit there and say, well, we can't do that. Yes, they can do that. Yes, they have an obligation to do that. They have a requirement under law to provide your child a free, appropriate public education. And these hybrid models, if there was any kind of real justification for it, that's not a real justification. The fact that they don't have the resources is not a justification.